Have you ever imagined that a relationship could turn into a nightmare in a single moment? Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Melissa, my ex-girlfriend, someone who turned 3 years of love into days of obsession, harassment, and manipulation that invaded both my life and her sister Amelia's. From the shocking anniversary breakup to relentless stalking sabotage and attempts to destroy our happiness, this story will make you feel tense, outraged, and even empathize with the victims trapped in her control. Brace yourself because this is a truly harrowing journey full of drama, but also overflowing with resilience and hope. Chapter 1: A Shocking Beginning. If anyone ever asked me what was the moment that made you lose faith in love, I wouldn't hesitate to tell them about my third anniversary. And trust me, no one would ever guess how it happened. I remember that day so vividly. I had just gotten off work, still tapping away at my laptop, trying to finish a deadline, thinking I'd come home to a warm, cozy dinner. I always believed that no matter what storms came our way, our love would be strong enough to weather it. Melissa. She always knew how to make me feel special, or at least that's what I thought. The moment I stepped inside my phone, pinged right on cue a message wishing me a happy anniversary. I smiled naively, not knowing what was about to hit me. Melissa texted, "You're home. I have a special gift for you. Open this video." I even joked back, "I hope it's not another one of your TikTok dance videos." Little did I know I would have given anything for it to just be one of her cringy dances on TikTok. I opened the video. What I saw wasn't a sweet montage of us or any cherished memory. No. What I saw was her, the woman I'd loved for 3 years, lying in bed with some random guy. The phrase, 6'3" Mexican guy from the gym near our place, flashed through my head like a punch straight to the chest. I couldn't believe it. My mind went blank. My heart started racing. My hands shook uncontrollably. I couldn't say a word, just stared at the screen as if staring long enough might make it all go away. But no, the video kept playing. Melissa looked straight into the camera, and at the end she added, "The way you're feeling right now is exactly how I felt when I saw you smiling at that barista at the coffee shop the other day." I was stunned. All the memories started spinning. Every time she grilled me about where I'd been, or who I was, with all the pointless jealousy, the ridiculous arguments over nothing, suddenly it all linked together into a perfect picture of control and toxicity that I'd never recognized before. I didn't cry. Seriously, I just sat there silent, trying to swallow this knife in my back. Not because I was strong, but because I didn't want her to see me broken. I thought I'd freak out, scream, fire off some angry text, but no, I just stayed quiet. That silence lasted for an entire year. For a whole year, I cut off all contact with Melissa, tried to stitch my self-respect back together, tried to move on without letting myself become bitter. I know some people break up with tears, with apologies, with sad hugs. But me, I ended things with the most disgusting anniversary gift imaginable, a shock I'm still not sure I've fully gotten over. But if you think my story ends there, then you really don't know Melissa. That was just the opening act to the most twisted, messed up saga I would ever go through. Chapter 2: Sister Twist. Reunion and Revelation. Maybe the most surprising thing about my life is this. After everything Melissa did to me, the person who helped me find my balance again was actually her younger sister, Amelia. Just hearing her name used to make me a little uneasy. If Melissa was a storm, loud, striking, destroying everything in her path, then Amelia was like a summer rain, gentle, quiet, but powerful enough to wash away the stubborn dust clinging to my mind. Back then, I barely noticed Amelia. When I was dating Melissa, I'd see her at family gatherings. She was always soft-spoken, polite, sometimes so shy she'd avoid making eye contact with me. I figured she was just an introvert, a bit of a bookworm, and had nothing to do with her sister's chaotic drama fest. But after that anniversary gift video, when I was at my lowest, it was Amelia who quietly reached out to check on me. No fuss, no dramatizing my pain. Just a simple message: I know my sister is awful. If you need someone to listen, I'm here. You can't imagine the value of a plain ordinary message when everything around you is falling apart. At first I felt awkward, worried I'd drag her into Melissa's endless spiral of drama. But Amelia was nothing like her sister. She never pushed for details, never interrogated me about the past. Instead, she'd just send me silly memes, gentle songs, and most importantly, always let me make the first move to reach out. We kept in touch like that for months. First, it was just texting, then brief calls, then weekend coffee meetups, and eventually, quiet evenings at the park. Each of us with a book, never bored, never lonely. It was then I realized I was actually smiling again, genuinely happy without forcing myself to forget the past. Amelia never badmouthed her sister in front of me, never complained, never sought pity. But through little stories here and there, I started to see why Amelia always stayed in the background. Because for years, she'd lived in Melissa's giant shadow, the perfect big sister always carrying the weight of family expectations, always pushing her little sister to play a supporting role in every performance. One time, Amelia sighed and said, sometimes I wonder if I'm really my own person or just a faulty copy of her. I didn't answer. I just quietly held her hand the first time I dared to reach out after all the pain. Somehow, we became best friends. Then before I even realized it, we were something more. It happened slowly, gently, without any pressure to erase each other's scars. The only thing that worried me was what if one day Melissa found out about me and Amelia? What would happen? Amelia just smiled sadly when I asked. She said, "If she truly cares about my happiness, then it'll be okay. And if not, then maybe it's finally time I live my own life." And that's why the day I decided to propose to Amelia, I wasn't just shaking with happiness. I was also terrified, feeling like a real storm was waiting just over the horizon. But that's love, isn't it? If you don't have the guts to fight for what matters most, then all that safety is just running away. I was ready for the biggest challenge of my life, and I swore no matter what storms came this time, I wouldn't stay silent. Chapter 3. The Reunion and Showdown at the Coffee Shop. I never thought I'd agree to see Melissa again, but after almost a year of total silence, she suddenly messaged me. "Let's meet up once." Just to talk for closure. Maybe if Amelia wasn't in my life, I'd have blocked her number without hesitation, but I didn't want to carry around unresolved issues anymore, especially now that I'd truly moved on. I chose a familiar Starbucks quiet in the middle of the day. When Melissa arrived, it took me a few seconds to even recognize her. She'd changed so much, dressed to the nines, heavy makeup overdrawn lips, long acrylic nails, and a dress shorter than a table napkin. She still held her head high, with that old confidence. But to me, everything about her felt different. "Oh, you actually showed up?" Melissa's squinted lips curled into a half smirk. "I figured you didn't have anything better to do anyway." She laughed a shrill laugh I once thought was charming, but now just sounded exhausting. "Still wearing those same old shirts, huh? Well, at least you're consistent, unlike me." She flipped her hair, raised an eyebrow. "Anyway, I only asked you out to clear the air. I've done a lot of growing up. I hope you have too. The old me would have felt awkward and blamed myself for everything." Now I just nodded politely, treating her like a distant acquaintance. Melissa clicked her tongue, opened her phone, and started scrolling through photos of men. "This is Brad. He's a banker, taught me that men can love for real. And this is Tyler, owns his own yacht. And here's Marcus, definitely a bigger size than you." I couldn't help but laugh. Melissa thought I was impressed and doubled down, showing off her trophies like we were a group of gossipy girlfriends. "You really are pathetic, you know. Still hung up on me, aren't you?" I just gave a half smile. "Congratulations, Melissa." A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. Even Amelia, that little shadow of mine, managed to find herself a boyfriend. Remember how she used to cling to me, guess being pretty is all you need to get by? I noticed the bitterness in every word she spoke about her sister. Truth is, Melissa never mentioned Amelia without a hint of jealousy or mockery. And you found anyone yet? Or are you still waiting for me to come back? She said, pinching my arm. You look skinny worse than before. No wonder you're still alone. I could have fired back, exposed everything she'd done. But this time I chose silence. Not because I was afraid to hurt her, but because I knew that's exactly what she wanted, an explosion. Another endless argument. Can't even stand up for yourself. I used to think you were weak, but you're even worse now. And as if that wasn't enough, Melissa pulled out a small box from her purse. I recognized it instantly. The watch I'd skipped meals and scrimped for a month to buy her for our first anniversary. I was planning to give this back to you, actually. She opened the box, took out the watch, and deliberately dropped it on the floor, then crushed it under her heel. Tyler bought me a much better watch. Real men know how to treat women. You should take notes. She kicked the shattered pieces toward me without a trace of regret. Her phone rang. She glared at the screen. It was Amelia calling. Melissa hit decline and muttered, "What now? Another fake accomplishment to brag about. She's so fake." I just looked at her, feeling equal parts amused and sorry. At that moment, I slowly twisted the ring on my finger, the engagement ring I had just given Amelia. Melissa noticed her face draining of color. "What's that, you got engaged?" I calmly replied, "Yeah, you know her already. It's Amelia." For a second, everything went silent. Melissa opened her mouth and shut it, eyes wide and wild. She frantically scrolled through Facebook. There it was, a photo of Amelia's hand, sparkling with the engagement ring captioned, "Can't wait to marry my best friend." Melissa gaped at me, trembling. "How long were you cheating on me with her all along?" I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and answered, "You know, that's not true. Goodbye, Melissa." I made it out the door before her drink could fly across the table at me. For the first time, I actually felt light, free. Just like Amelia once told me, some people, the more you try to save, the more you drag yourself down. Sometimes letting go is the only way to move forward. Chapter 4, The Wedding and an Unimaginable Disruption. The day Amelia and I got married was supposed to be the happy ending to all the injustice we'd endured. We'd made it through so many terrible days together, and somehow love had managed to grow from the ashes of all Melissa's drama. Amelia spent a whole month planning every detail: the flowers, the cake, the music, the bridesmaids' dress colors. She wanted everything to be perfect, but most of all, she wanted a day that no one, not even the ghost of the past, could ruin. And for a while, I believed it too, until I saw Melissa's name on the guest list. I protested hard. I told Amelia I don't want the happiest day of my life to become a stage for you and your sister to put on another show. But she just shook her head, eyes sad. If I don't give her a chance, I'll regret it forever. I want to believe in her one last time. The wedding took place on a beautiful afternoon. Guests gathered, everyone cheerful except for me, constantly glancing around for Melissa. During the ceremony, she sat in the back row, dark sunglasses on, phone in hand, occasionally sneaking a live stream. I pretended not to notice, just hoping she'd have enough self-control not to do anything crazy. But as soon as the reception began, I knew things wouldn't go as smoothly as I'd hoped. It started with her grand entrance. Melissa walked into the reception in a white dress, so stunning it looked almost exactly like Amelia's wedding gown. Not just white, but a near-perfect copy lace mermaid, cut even the same pearl-trimmed hem. The whole room froze. Everyone stared, and the sister's mother went pale, dragging Melissa outside for a talk. She just shrugged. "I forgot. Thought the dress code was white. Why make such a big deal?" I found Amelia in the bathroom, face pale, mascara streaked. Melissa stood in front of the sink, leaned in, and whispered in her sister's ear, "You know it should have been me up there today, but whatever. Good luck being happy with my leftovers." I had to physically step in, pulling Amelia away to stop a meltdown right there in the bridal suite. but I barely had time to breathe before the next disaster hit. Melissa grabbed the microphone before the MC could react, already tipsy, and started airing out every bit of old dirty laundry, from me being weak to her fake little sister, who supposedly stole everything that belonged to her. She laughed harshly. I used to have to teach her how to kiss. What an innocent little thing. The room was suffocatingly silent. Guests stared, and Amelia's mother could only sob, pleading for her eldest to stop. Only when the groomsmen and a few friends dragged Melissa off the stage could the reception limp back to normal. But the damage was done. In one corner, I saw Amelia's mother covering her face and sobbing, her father shaking his head in defeat. On one side was the daughter they always trusted, on the other was a truth they could no longer deny. And me, stuck in the middle, angry, sympathetic, and guilty for the happiness I'd found. I kept asking myself, when someone is so used to controlling and destroying everything around them, is even someone else's happiness an unacceptable threat? Or are there just people who can only exist if they know they're the center of every disaster? That day I realized a wedding isn't just an ending. It's the starting line for something new, a place where Amelia and I would have to learn to survive something more frightening than pain itself. The endless obsession called family. Chapter 5. The stalker days begin. I used to think that after the wedding everything would finally settle down. Melissa had done everything in her power to turn our happiest day into an unforgettable memory for all the worst reasons. But as it turned out, that was only the warm-up act. At first I tried to reassure myself. Maybe Melissa just had a moment. She'll vent all her anger and then let it go. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks after the wedding, I realized some nightmares don't just visit you in your sleep. It started with little things. Someone ringing our doorbell in the middle of the night, then disappearing. Our mailbox stuffed with scraps of paper scrawled with messages like, "A thief's happiness never lasts." At first, Amelia tried to stay optimistic, telling herself it was probably just some neighborhood kids playing pranks. But by the fourth time I found the car tires slashed at midnight, I knew this was no coincidence. Less than a month after the wedding, I got an anonymous email at my work account. What was in it? Dozens of old messages between me and Melissa, screenshot, with every ambiguous line highlighted and annotated. Is this your ideal husband? Do you know what he's really said behind your back? It didn't stop there. Similar emails showed up in my boss's inbox and HR's. I nearly got suspended for unprofessional conduct until I explained the whole story, backed up with plenty of evidence of what Melissa had pulled at the wedding. The sabotage only escalated from there. One evening, Amelia called me home early, trembling, because someone had been lurking outside our house for 2 hours straight. Security cameras caught footage of a woman in a hat and sunglasses circling our place, trying different keys in our front door. Of course it was Melissa. And of course, all the evidence only led to a gentle reminder from the neighborhood security to stay safe. No one had the power or the guts to intervene. I started seeing Melissa everywhere at the grocery store. She'd suddenly pop up in the opposite aisle, snapping pictures of Amelia and me, then sending them straight to my phone with messages like, "Perfect couple, huh? Don't worry, this happiness won't last." For the first time in my life, I had to change my routines just to avoid being followed. Before work, I'd check my car every morning, constantly look over my shoulder. Even at lunch, I'd pick crowded spots, always making sure I was never alone for too long. Meanwhile, Amelia was wearing down, anxious, losing sleep, trying to put on a brave face, but I knew better. Nobody stays normal when their private life is constantly violated, especially when the stalker is someone who shares your blood. Some nights, I'd wake up to find Amelia curled up by the window, tears streaming silently down her face. I never knew if I should hold her close or just scream out loud from frustration. All I knew was that family trauma I'd thought was in the past had become our daily nightmare. We started keeping records of everything, emails, photos, every chat, not because we believed the police would actually do anything, but because we needed to tell ourselves if things ever got out of control, at least we'd have evidence to protect ourselves. Maybe that's when it really hit me. Online drama is child's play. compared to real-life obsession, and Melissa, with her relentless persistence, was turning every single day for Amelia and me into our own never-ending news broadcast. Only in this story, the main characters never get to turn off the TV. Chapter 6, Personal Attacks, Smears, and Life Under a Haunting Shadow. If anyone thinks you can escape an ex just by blocking their number, or changing your social media, then they've never experienced Melissa-level obsession. After all those days of being stalked, Amelia and I thought we were ready for anything. But I underestimated just how creative Melissa could get when it came to revenge. It started on Facebook, then spread to LinkedIn, then to both our work emails, each one flooded with anonymous messages hinting at horrible secrets and calling me a fake husband. My boss and coworkers received emails with subject lines like, "Warning fraudster in your company." Think it stopped there, not even close. I started getting weird phone calls in the middle of the night. On the other end, nothing but heavy breathing sobs mixed with creepy laughter, then a deadline. Amelia had it even worse. Suddenly, dozens of fake accounts sprang up spreading lies about her, accusing her of affairs, debts, even photoshopping evidence to circulate through every mutual friends group. One day I came home to find our mailbox stuffed with printed out chats between me and Melissa. Every sentence was circled in red and annotated in handwriting I recognized all too well. Good people don't hide their past. I went to the police. The only response I got, "If there's no physical violence or clear threat to your safety, we can't intervene further." In other words, unless something truly serious happened, we were on our own. So Amelia and I came up with a plan. We reached out to trusted friends and colleagues asking for help, saving every message, screenshotting everything, keeping detailed records. Gradually, a little team Amelia was born, each person keeping their own folder, ready to stand up to Melissa if needed. Some had been hurt by her before, some just wanted to protect their friends. That's when I learned nightmares can spread, but so can human kindness. The absolute low point came when I spotted Melissa parked in her car right across from our house from 7 a.m. until noon, secretly taking photos and videos of everything Amelia and I did. We changed every lock, installed more cameras, even put up a photo of our troublemaker in the apartment lobby so every guard would stay alert. But no matter what we did, it felt like Melissa was slipping in through every crack in our lives. And she still wasn't done. Melissa joined the same book club Amelia attended. On her first day, she spun a tale about sisters betraying each other over a man, then stared pointedly at Amelia as the group sat in awkward silence. A week later, I discovered she'd scheduled her own therapy appointments right after ours just to accidentally bump into us and drop toxic comments in front of our counselor. Day by day, I grew suspicious of everyone new. Every time I met someone, I wondered, is this a friend of Melissa's, a spy, or just another person caught in her web by accident? Work, friendships, privacy, nothing was untouched. Amelia and I could only lean on each other, fighting against this mix of fear and helplessness. We finally started looking into real legal action, gathering enough evidence to get a restraining order, knowing it would be a long and exhausting process. Sometimes I felt like I was going crazy, wanting to disappear from this city entirely. But then I'd look at Amelia, tired but determined, and realize I wasn't allowed to fall apart. Because when you're facing down the ghost of your past, the only way to keep living is to walk right through it. And I swore this time Melissa would no longer control my life. Chapter 7, Family and Community Awakening. Perhaps the most unexpected thing amid all the chaos was realizing that Melissa wasn't just tormenting Amelia and me. It turned out we were just the latest victims on a long, staggering list of people she had manipulated, defamed, and wrecked. It all began when Sarah, Amelia's best friend from college, called trembling, crying uncontrollably. "Melissa has been messaging me nonstop for weeks, sending all sorts of fake evidence about you. She says you're a traitor, that you're unworthy of friends, that you stole her sister's boyfriend." I know that's not true, but Melissa's driving me crazy. At the same time, Mike, a brief ex of Melissa's, after our wedding, reached out to me. She tracked every basketball game I played, threatened me to skip them, or risk having private chats leaked. I just found out she did this to plenty of people before me. Then Tyler, the real man Melissa had once bragged about at the cafe, sent me a long message detailing his own terrifying breakup story. Do you know I found an old phone hidden in a wardrobe full of videos of Melissa rehearsing imagined arguments with me and her sister? I literally moved just to escape this. The sense of isolation and insanity that Amelia and I had suffered turned out to be a shared experience for many others. Sarah even set up a small group chat, jokingly called Team Amelia, gathering witnesses, former friends, exes, colleagues who had been threatened or harassed by Melissa. We began cross-checking events, reviewing every message, email, and photo, every piece fitting together in a chilling pattern. And it wasn't just friends. Melissa's own family started seeing the truth. Amelia's mother, who had once always sided with her older daughter, went pale as she read the chain of threatening messages, manipulations, and even photos of Melissa staking out in front of Amelia's house in the middle of the night. I remember her calling me once, voice shaky. We let Melissa go too far, didn't we? I thought she was just a reckless child, but she needs far more help than I realized. Even the sister's father, a traditionally stoic man who rarely intervened in girl stuff, began to empathize. He came to me, said little, but clasped my shoulder firmly. Do whatever you need to protect Amelia. Don't let anyone, not even family, make her afraid again. Relatives and old friends, those who had believed Melissa's victims' stories, apologized, offered support. Many recounted minor incidents, lies, slanders, subtle extortion, all the small but malicious acts that had previously been dismissed as misunderstandings or sibling jealousy. Even the wider community began to shift. Building managers, neighborhood guards, even elderly neighbors who once thought of Melissa as the good girl from a decent family, became vigilant, recording photos and videos, notifying us whenever they noticed something suspicious. One evening, Emma, a former victim, showed up at our door carrying a thick folder. Inside were records of Melissa being accused of harassment and extortion against ex-boyfriends back in college. Emma said, "We're not alone, and no one has to suffer through this by themselves anymore." For the first time in months, Amelia and I felt like we weren't fighting the darkness alone. The ominous cloud named Melissa hadn't disappeared, but at least we had a whole sky of family, friends, and community ready to stand behind the truth. And I realized this was the turning point, from isolated victims to a united force, from silent shame to the power of transparency. But I also knew Melissa wasn't about to give up easily. The biggest storms were still ahead. Chapter 8, Counterattack and Evidence Collection. Once we realized that Melissa wasn't just tormenting us, but a long list of other people as well, Amelia and I decided we wouldn't stay silent any longer. We began planning strategically, step by step, to protect ourselves and those around us. The first step was gathering evidence. We saved every email, message, screenshot, video, and recorded every unexpected appearance. Every tiny detail was documented, from Melissa lurking outside our door, to public comments on social media, to fabricated messages sent to our colleagues and friends. Nothing was left out. Every entry had dates, times, and locations clearly noted. Next, we organized a support network, Amelia's old friends, colleagues, and former victims who had experienced Melissa's manipulations firsthand. We jokingly called this group Team Amelia. Everyone shared their experiences, submitted evidence, and offered observations. Seeing everyone connect and contribute, I felt for the first time in months that we were no longer isolated. Amelia also started keeping a detailed diary of every harassment incident, from Melissa joining her art class, to attending the book club, to monitoring Mike's basketball practices. She even secretly placed cameras in certain public spaces, ensuring we had proof whenever Melissa crossed a line. The constant sense of being watched diminished slightly, because at least now, every action was documented and could be used to protect ourselves. We also compiled a preliminary legal dossier, organizing events chronologically, from Melissa's affair video to the wedding disruptions to every subsequent stalking incident. The goal wasn't to sue immediately, but so that if necessary, we could present a clear, complete record to the police courts or lawyers. Another critical step was alerting the surrounding community. Building security neighborhood managers, trusted neighbors, all were informed about Melissa, warned to notice unusual behavior. As a result, any sudden appearance by Melissa was detected promptly, and we were no longer caught completely off guard. Step by step, a domino effect began. Former victims of Melissa gradually reached out submitting their evidence. Each new story added to the collective file, confirming that these weren't isolated incidents or impulsive acts. They were part of a systematic, obsessive pattern of manipulation. For Amelia and me, this process wasn't just about self-protection. It was about stopping Melissa before she could destroy anyone else. Every photo, every saved message, every friend we contacted made it harder for her to turn the tables. I remember one evening, Amelia smiled softly while looking at our thick file. See, we have power now. No one can doubt us anymore, at least when everything is backed by facts. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of relief amidst the storm of Melissa. We were no longer alone, and more importantly, for the first time, I felt the spark of our counterattack igniting quietly, steadily, and with authority. We knew the real battle wasn't over. But now, instead of being crushed, we were starting to take control of the game. And that feeling, it was truly exhilarating. Chapter 9, Climax, the public confrontation. We had prepared meticulously. Every piece of evidence, every event, every witness was organized in sequence. Our single goal to confront Melissa directly in front of family and friends so that for the last time she could no longer manipulate anyone. On the day of the confrontation, my heart raced like never before. Amelia held my hand tightly, her eyes a mixture of fear and determination. We knew that one wrong move, and Melissa would try to manipulate everyone around us immediately. Melissa arrived on time as if she knew everything would unfold according to her expectations. Her face still held that confident smirk, but this time I saw a flicker of tension in her eyes. Perhaps she wasn't used to having her actions systematically and publicly exposed. Amelia's mother stood beside me while Melissa's father, who had always protected his eldest daughter, was also present. The entire family focused silent, watching every gesture. The atmosphere was taut, like a stretched string. We went through the evidence one by one. Harassing emails sent to our bosses and colleagues. Photos of Melissa lurking outside our home. Videos of her following Amelia during art classes and training sessions. Threatening messages and fake social media accounts designed to defame us. Everyone in the room, from relatives to close friends, fell silent, astonished. No one could deny the evidence presented. A few of Melissa's former victims even came forward, sharing their experiences, proving that these actions were not just aimed at us, but had spanned over a decade. Melissa began to tremble, trying to deny everything, but each word was immediately countered with data evidence and testimonies from other witnesses. Every claim she made now felt like a piece of paper blown away by the wind, weightless and powerless. The climax came when Amelia spoke, her voice shaking but resolute. You've done too much, not just to him, but to me and to everyone around you. I've endured enough, and now it's time for you to take responsibility. In that moment, Melissa seemed as if she wanted to vanish. She cried, screamed, even attempted to grab her phone to record, but everything was under control. Family and friends no longer allowed her to manipulate anyone again. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction, not from revenge, but from relief, knowing that for the first time in months, we had turned the tables. Melissa no longer had power, no longer had the ability to instill fear. Every action, every scheme of hers had been exposed in front of everyone, backed by irrefutable evidence. After the confrontation, I held Amelia's hand, exhaled, and told myself, finally, it's over. At least we've protected ourselves and can begin to live in peace again. But I also knew Melissa would not give up completely. The months ahead would still be challenging, but for the first time, we had proven that truth, community, and transparent evidence are stronger than any manipulative trick. Chapter 10: Conclusion and Aftermath. After the public confrontation, a wave of relief washed over me. For the first time in months of living in anxiety and constant vigilance, Amelia and I could truly breathe. Melissa no longer had power, no longer could manipulate or instill fear into our lives. We gradually removed all surveillance equipment from our home, leaving only the outdoor cameras as a precaution. Every small step forward made us feel safer. Amelia returned to work, her smile slowly coming back, and together we rebuilt a normal rhythm of life. But the most important thing wasn't security or evidence, it was community and the support of those closest to us. Old friends, colleagues, and previous victims of Melissa all came together to help. We organized a small gathering at the coffee shop where it all began, both to celebrate and to share experiences acknowledging everything that had happened. Tyler arrived with Emma Mike with his new girlfriend Jake, also attended. Each of them had faced Melissa's influence in different ways, and now they formed a strong, chosen family united against obsessive and manipulative behavior. Hearing their stories around the table, I realized one thing: Melissa had completely failed. Instead of spreading isolation and fear, she had inadvertently created a connected network, a community that supported one another. Collective strength, transparency, and the courage to face the truth had proven that love, unity, and justice were stronger than any harassment scheme. A few weeks later, Melissa began psychiatric treatment. Her family ensured she complied with medication and therapy. We received updates from her mother that progress was promising and that living apart from Amelia, me, and the surrounding community was necessary for everyone's peace. We started preparing for the future. Amelia became pregnant, and although the early days were challenging due to past events, we felt complete happiness. A new home, a supportive community, a peaceful life, all built on truth, protection, and our courage. Looking back from that Starbucks where I first revealed the engagement ring through Melissa's shocking and obsessive behavior to now I saw how the journey from nightmare to peace was short in distance, but filled with challenges. We survived not only through personal strength, but with the support of community friends and chosen family. Today, we are no longer haunted by the past. Everything has been organized: files preserved, painful memories turned into lessons. We've learned that truth, courage, and unity always triumph over manipulation and toxicity, and that happiness isn't automatic. It's something to be protected every single day. With Amelia holding my hand, her belly revealing new life within, I knew a new chapter of our lives had begun, free from fear, free from manipulation, leaving only love, peace, and hope. We live, and we have won. And that's the story of Melissa, how manipulation and malice can destroy lives, but also a story of the power of truth, courage, and community. Amelia, I, and everyone affected by Melissa learned that sometimes you can't change the villain, but you can protect yourself, stand up, and hold on to your own happiness. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss more thrilling true Reddit stories. And let me know in the comments, what would you do if you were in our situation? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.